All right, welcome to Waste Some Time with Jason Green. I'm Jason Green. If you dig these interviews, please subscribe so that we can keep it going. Today we got a really cool guest from the band AUTOGRAPH joining us, Steve Lynch, and we're going to talk about touring with Van Halen. We're going to talk about touring with Motley Crue. We're going to talk about their big success, their hits, their movie soundtracks. We're going to get into Turn Up the Radio, and more importantly, we're going to get into co-starring with Dudley Moore. And we're going to find out about that right after this. All right, here he is, Steve Lynch.
Hey, Jason, how you doing?
Good.
Thanks
I'm glad
bud.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. Not many people have an introduction that heavy metal band and Dudley Moore in the same intro.
Yeah, yeah, I never thought about that, but yeah,
That is we're going to get into that. We're going to build up to that. It's a tease.
Okay.
But Steve, usually a lot of the people that I've interviewed are people that I've personally known. We've only met one time before, and you probably don't remember it. I was working with Winger, and I was with Reb Beach, and we ran into each other on an elevator on the Monsters of Rock cruise.
I remember that. Absolutely. Yeah.
So that was that was the gods of finger tapping elevator.
Yeah,
That
exactly. If we would
myself
have Jeff Watson in there, then it would have been,
Yes, yeah. Believe me, I try to get him to do things. He's kind of living off the land these days. So.
Oh, is he? Okay, well that's cool.
He's got a really cool like nature kind of set up, and feeding wild animals. He's got a cool thing, but he kind of lays low. So.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of his posts where he's got a bunch of deer coming up in his backyard and everything, and I think that's great. Good for him.
Yeah, he seems very happy. So, anyway, let's go all the way back to first, before we even get started with AUTOGRAPH, I want you to tell me a little bit about how you got involved playing guitar, because it doesn't happen overnight for someone who has your kind of skill. So, tell me how you started.
Well, I got started actually in when I was 9, when my dad got me a guitar. It was a Sears and Roebuck piece of crap, but the strings were so high off the neck, I literally had to stand on the strings to make contact with the frets. But so that didn't do me much good, especially at 9 years old. You can't even make one note come out, so that was very disheartening. But then later on, I started in 1967. I started playing bass because there was another guy on my block that already played guitar. We wanted to put a band together. We wanted to be the next Beatles. And so, of course, everybody did at that time. And so anyway, I got a bass, but I really, my passion was always guitar. And so anyway, unfortunately, he passed away, from untimely death. And so I switched over to guitar, actually, on the day Jimi Hendrix passed away, September 18th, 1970. And that was it. That was it for me. I just thought, that's my hero, Jimi Hendrix. I listened to everything he ever did. And I thought, I want to really learn his stuff. And then Jimmy Page, I loved at the time, and Jeff Beck and everything. So at the age of 15 in 1970, I switched over to guitar, and I never looked back. I've been playing ever since. And so that was where I got started.
Now tell me a little bit about, how do you do it? Nowadays kids go on YouTube and they can learn how to play guitar in a day. What gets you started? Did you have teachers? Were you reading books? What was your style?
No, there was no teachers back then. Everything I was doing basically was by ear. And that was what you pretty much had to do, unless you went to a teacher that taught you, how to read Mary Had a Little Lamb and
Mel Bay books.
I wasn't into that at all. I was already into Hendrix. So I just sat down and I started figuring out stuff by ear and asking a couple of guitar players that were much more experienced how to do certain things. And then later on, in the mid 70s, I started taking lessons from a guy. Actually, I found a jazz guitarist, Don Mock, out of West Seattle. And I started taking lessons from him. And so from that point, I was already playing professional at that point. I started playing professionally in 1973, actually touring all over, Western Canada and Washington, Oregon, Northern California, Utah, Idaho, Montana, all the time, that whole Northwest region. And, but anyway, I was in Montana playing, and I called up the store where he taught at to set up some more lessons because I was coming back into town for a week. And they said, well, he's not here anymore. He's actually at a school in Hollywood, and it's a guitar school. They said, I think it's called the Guitar Institute of Technology. And I said, do you have the number? And they said, no, we don't have it. But I actually called information from the hotel I was staying at in Montana, and I got the number, 213-462-1385. I still remember it. But anyway, I called up and I actually got him on the phone. And I explained where I was at and everything. And I said, what's this guitar school you're talking about? This sounds incredible. And he said, Steve, I was like his favorite student because I always just nailed everything that he gave me. I practiced it for hours and hours a day. And so he said, Steve, sell your gear, quit your band, sell your gear, and get your ass down here. And 3 months later, I was there. I was living in Hollywood and going to the Guitar Institute of Technology. And I did exactly as he said. I quit the band. I sold my gear, and just moved down there. Just took 2 guitars and a Marshall half stack with me, and a mattress, and a suitcase, and $200 in my pocket, and that was it.
How amazing! And and then to make it even cooler, you ended up teaching at the Guitar Institute many years later, right?
Well, I did I did a clinic there, and I did some consultation, and really that was pretty much it. I wasn't a regular teacher because I was so busy playing in bands, and this was pre-Autograph. Plus, I was, I'd written my book and everything, and I was promoting that. And then, in '83, later '83, Autograph started to happen. So then,
tell me a little bit about your first book. What year did it come out, and what made you write that book? Because now it's legendary.
I actually had it already written by the time I graduated the Guitar Institute. What I was doing was I was taking all the scales that they were showing, and I was writing it out two-handed. And this, what prompted me to do this was seeing this guy, Emmett Chapman, who invented the stick, the Chapman Stick that you play with both hands. And you play it more vertically, and it's got 5 strings for comping, like on a piano, and for lower register, and then it's got 5 strings where you play the melodies and the solo stuff. And when he did a clinic at the school, I just went, wow, this is amazing. And he said during the clinic, he said, I got so far with guitar that I actually had to come up with an instrument where I could bi-amp it, one for the bass side and one for the treble side. And this way I could play gigs by myself, playing the melodies and everything. And I thought it was incredible. And I asked him after the clinic, I said, can you show me something on guitar that you did with this technique, And so I had it in my guitar, and he did this pentatonic thing, and he just went, and I just went, that's it. I already was doing the basically, some of the hammer-on stuff using 1 or 2 fingers, and I got that from Harvey Mandel. When I saw him play, that influenced me. And so I started playing around with it way back in like 73, 74 is when I really started playing around with it. There was also a guy in Seattle that did it named Steve Buffington, who was really good at it. And I got a few ideas from him as well. So when I saw Emmett Chapman at the Guitar Institute, I just went crazy. So what I did was I wrote out these guitar graphs. And I was already writing all the curriculum out for the whole school because it was all in notation. And I'm going, I can't see what this looks like on guitar. So I started writing everything out on these guitar graphs so you could see what it looks like on the guitar neck, all the scale positions and all that kind of stuff. And so I decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to use circles for my right hand when I write it down, squares for my left hand. And so that's what I did was I was able to separate each different thing with circles and squares, and people understood it right away. But the main reason I wrote it down so that I would remember all these things, how I connected, triads and chord inversions and different scales and interval skips and stuff like that. So when I graduated, I actually, I played at the graduation ceremony, and Howard Roberts and Tommy Tedesco. Howard Roberts wrote the curriculum for the school, basically. So he's like a famous jazz guy. And then Tommy Tedesco is like the number one, studio guitarist in LA for a couple of decades. So they came up to me afterwards and they said, you got to write a book about this. And I said, I already have probably 3 books already written out on this. So they said, well, let's see it, you know. And so I showed it to them, and they brought me, but both of them, they brought me into their publisher, Dale's Identity Publications. And I showed them how I wrote it out, and I played them the examples, and the publisher just went, sold. And we had a deal within 10 minutes of walking in his office. We had a publishing deal. And so that was the end of 1979, actually. So,
yeah. And so it's interesting how, first of all, how innovative this was. And you were saying that guitar, two-hand playing, finger tapping style goes back almost to 1930. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, it's like Johnny Smith. There was other guys that were doing it. There was an Italian guy in 1964 that was really good at it. He was actually a doctor, and he played all this stuff on a classical guitar, and it was just amazing. But yeah, it goes way back. These jazz guitarists would add on, they play an inversion with their left hand, then they'd add on an extension version of that chord with their right hand, and then they'd pull off and stuff and do some really creative things. And so it goes way back. I mean, none of us guys that are doing it now actually invented that technique. We took it in different directions is what we did, but none of us actually invented it. And so what I do when I'm teaching that technique, and I also explain this in the book, that take these ideas that I'm giving you and make them your own. Take it into your own, make it into your own style. I'm just giving you the ideas now. You can run with it. So that's basically the same thing I do with my students that I teach one-on-one now.
Yeah, well, you were definitely ahead of your time in that. And we're going to talk about Eddie Van Halen down the road a bit, because this is a tease to that. But so let's get to 1983. One of the things I find most interesting about Autograph is, in the beginning, Autograph wasn't really a band. This is almost a manufactured thing. Tell me what you guys were doing. I know you're recording demos and working together, but you were in other bands. So explain how that begins.
Well, me and the keyboard player, Steve Isham, were playing in a band called Holly Penfield. That was the singer. And we were on Dreamland Records, okay, with Nicky Chin and Mike Chapman. And so that was
amazing songwriters.
And then, remember them? Yeah, they were these famous writers back in the 80s. And then the singer was playing in a group called Silver Condor with guitarist Earl Slick, great guitar player. And so he was signed to Columbia Records. The drummer was playing on A&M Records with a group called The Coup. And then Randy Rand, the bass player, was playing with Lita Ford. So we all had paid gigs. We all were collecting a paycheck, and we were all on labels. But what happened was, when weekends would come along, we had this area in Victory Studios, it's called, in North Hollywood. We had this area there where we could take one of the rooms and we could just jam in there. So that's what we did. We got together just as friends. We all knew each other from playing in different incarnations of bands, different bands together. And so we thought, hey, we're all friends, let's get together and jam on the week. So we'd jam, we'd play Aerosmith and AC/DC and stuff, and just like all these classic rock songs, throw some Stones and Led Zeppelin, whatever, and we just had fun at it. But then we started, throwing some original song ideas together ourselves. So we had Andy Johns come down. He was a friend of ours. So, Andy Johns and Glenn Johns, they've worked with their producers and engineers. They've worked with John Lennon and the Rolling Stones, and they've worked with Led Zeppelin, the people I've just mentioned, so it was really cool to have Andy down at the rehearsal studio listening to us. And he said, hey guys, I really like that original stuff that you're working on. Would you like to go into the studio next weekend and cut a demo, of like those 5 songs that you played me? And we thought, yeah, sure, it's free, but it was at Gower Studios, and they owed him some time for some mixing that he did. And so it was free to us, and we said, yeah, let's go do it. And so we went in and we cut the demo, and it came out really good. We just did it. We recorded everything in one day and mixed it the next day, all 5 songs. And then Kenny took that demo, and he was jogging every morning with David Lee Roth. And David asked him, he said, I want to hear what you're playing, and they were just good buddies, jogging buddies is what they were. And so Kenny played him The Coup, the group that he was playing with on A&M Records. And David thought that was pretty good. It was cool. But then he played him the demo that we had just finished. And Kenny just told me, hey, this isn't a band. We're just in the studio. We just hang out, you know, and this is what we just cut. And David loved it. And he said, he asked Kenny, he said, would you guys like to go out and open up for us on the 1984 tour? And Kenny thought, well, that would be great. And so he threw that at us, you know, but we already had gigs, you know, but we were done recording with all these different projects. So we actually had time, and we thought, you know what, let's go out for a few months with them. That'd be fun. We'll just make up a name and just write a few more songs and go out and do it. So that's what we did. We collected some money, rented a Winnebago, and drove from Los Angeles all the way to Jacksonville, Florida. And that was a long drive. There's a whole adventure book that's just dedicated to that whole drive. But anyway, so we went and opened up. It was on my 29th birthday, actually, January 18th, 1984. So,
well, this is amazing. But let's go back for a second before we even get to that big night. Kenny and David Lee Roth formed this strange kind of friendship that they were hanging out at the Troubadour, and Dave was kind of looking for a buddy to go running, and he said that they would go run 5 miles until they puked, and then from there they'd go to the clubs and party. And it seemed like Dave wanted Kenny around as a party buddy. And so Kenny tells a story, who knows if it's true, and he's not here to tell us, but is that Dave put Eddie Van Halen on the phone, and Eddie Van Halen told him, we need a t-shirt band on the road with us. And he said, what's the t-shirt band? And Eddie said, a t-shirt band is the band that nobody wants to watch, and they go and buy our t-shirts when you're playing. Have you heard that?
Yes, I have. And so I believe that's true, that did happen. I didn't know it happened over the phone. I thought it was just when we went to play with them that, you know, but no, that makes sense though, because, you know, basically that's what they wanted. They wanted a t-shirt band. So we were unknown, you know, nobody knew who we were, you know. I mean, we just made up a name on the way to go play there.
I mean, Van Halen was kind of known for...
It's like a Cinderella story. It didn't mean to happen, you know. It just, or none of us meant it to happen. But it happened, you know. Record labels started to offer us deals. They loved our material and everything, and they loved the way we performed and sounded, and so we started thinking about it, and we thought, you know, this is our own deal. We're not a part of another project. This is our own thing, and so we thought, you know what? When RCA offered us to keep 100% of our publishing, we thought, you know what? We can't turn that down. We're never going to get a better deal than that. They offered us a 3-album deal and to keep 100% of the publishing, because RCA knew that all these other companies, there was Warner Brothers, there was Geffen, there was Epic Records, you know, there was all these major labels that were bidding for us, and so RCA knew that we were going to get grabbed up, and so we actually signed backstage at Madison Square Gardens in New York. You know,
yeah, huge. Now, we're going to go back too, but you get signed, Madison Square Garden. Obviously, you're opening for Van Halen. People are seeing you. You're a good band. You got good songs. Is it true that the person who signed, what was the name of the guy who signed you?
It was Paul Atkinson.
But was one of the Menendez, the father of the Menendez brothers, involved in this?
Yes, actually, yes. That's right. And there was also Bob Summers at the time, who passed away from AIDS, and then Bob Buziak took over. And then, so we were mainly dealing with Paul Atkinson out of the LA office, and Randy Miller. Those two out of the LA office, Because so, I mean, it was Bob Summers who we were mainly dealing with out of the New York office.
Yeah, but so, I mean, for those who don't know or don't remember, the Menendez brothers, famous rich brothers who killed their father, and their father, though, had a part in Autograph's success. It's a strange story.
Small world. I mean,
small world. Yeah. But let's go back even further. That first show, you're a band that has never played together live as a band. Your first show is with Van Halen in an arena, and you'll tell the story. Somewhere before the show, maybe sound check, somebody tells you that you can't do the finger tapping. So you explain it.
Yeah, one of the managers came up. It's our tour manager. I don't want to mention his name, but he said, he asked me, "Are you Steve Lynch?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You're the one that wrote the book on the two-handed technique." And I said, "Yeah, I did." And he said, "Well, you can't do that on this tour because that's Eddie's thing." And I said, "Look, I didn't even know who Eddie Van Halen was until after I'd already written the book. I wasn't listening to much radio or anything at that time. The last guitar player I really listened to that was an influence was Alan Holdsworth, and that was back in 1978. And so I said that, this is not somebody's technique. I mean, this is actually, the way I do it is a completely different technique altogether. And so anyway, but he said, "No, that's Eddie's thing. You don't do that on this tour." And I wasn't very happy about that. I didn't even want to go on stage. I thought, you know what, I'm being taken away my freedoms as a guitar player. I'm kind of being put in a stranglehold here. But I don't even know if Eddie really knew about that. That's the question that kind of remained, because whenever I saw Eddie, he was totally cool, and we exchanged a few licks and stuff. We talked a little bit, and I one time I was getting a little bit buzzed on Jack Daniels backstage, and he had just gotten off stage, and he walked off, and I said, hey Eddie, why don't you call off the dog so I can do my own thing? And he says, I know who you are. I've heard about you from all these different people in LA. He says, you could do whatever you want, Steve. Don't worry about it. And so I did. So I started playing it. So I don't even think it was his idea. So
what a great story. And yeah, and I think maybe you're right. Maybe people are trying to control their brand and their image. Yeah. And as you said, what you did is completely different. Eddie Van Halen taps with one finger. You were using, at times, I believe you're using all eight of your, all eight of your fingers,
most of the time I was using 4. Yeah, and the thing is I was influenced by completely, different people than he was. And I'm actually older than him, which a lot of people, don't realize that I'm like 10 days older than him, 8 or 10 days, something like that. Because he had a birthday the following week after mine. Because the night that we opened up for him, the first night of the tour, that was my birthday, actually, my 29th birthday. So, and his birthday was the following week. So I thought, we're right around the same age. And I guess George Lynch is just a few months older than me. So we're all like, LA people at that time. I was an import from Seattle, but, I had been living there since 77, the latter part of 77. So we were all like these LA guys, and we were all like within just a few months of age of one another, so, we have similar techniques in some ways because, I think we basically grew up on the same bowl of Cheerios. I might have listened to Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page more than Eddie listened to Eric Clapton. You know what I mean? But we still came from the same genre of guitar players, the 60s and 70s guys.
Yeah. Now you mentioned George Lynch. I can't let it pass. How come you guys have never done the Lynch versus Lynch tour? This is a marketing opportunity that's getting away.
I don't know. I think it's basically because we've always been so busy with our own thing.
I'm going to call him, Steve. I'm going to work on him. I think this is he's always up for a good marketing campaign. Lynch versus Lynch. This is I think we got something. But so anyway, how amazing. This is the peak of Van Halen, 1984. How incredible for an unknown band who've made up their name in a Winnebago on the way to the show.
Yes.
You get signed at Madison Square Garden. The record, Sign In Please, comes out in 1984. Here it is right here. And you spawn a big hit off this record, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Turn Up the Radio. And you guys, it's a good thing you went with that then, because I think Turn Up the Digital Download would not have the same ring to it.
No. In fact, the first title of the album was actually Turn Up the Cassette Machine.
Really?
That's the way it is on the demo, actually, that we did with Andy Johns. But then we changed it to radio because we thought, who's going to, it's not comfortable to sing that. And who's going to sing Turn Up the Tape Machine when we don't know how long that's going to be around? There's going to be new technology. We were actually thinking that back then. And so we turned it to just Turn Up the Radio, made it simpler. And RCA actually didn't want us to put that song on the album. They didn't, or if they did, they did allow us finally, but they didn't want that to be the first release. They wanted the song Sender to Me to be the first release because they thought it was the strongest. And we were telling them, no, turn up the radio. Radio stations are going to love this. Are you kidding? And so, we released it and radio stations went nuts. And what really set it over the edge was when we went in and did the call letters for all the stations, throughout the whole U.S. All the stations like KLAC, turn it up, KLAC. This is Autograph. Turn up the radio, And so we did that with all the K, ones on the whole west of the Mississippi and all the W ones on the east of the Mississippi. And it took us 2 8-hour days to do it. But you know what? That way it was personalized for each of these stations. And they absolutely loved it. And it made them play the hell out of it. So it ended up being number 93 on the most played rock songs of all time. So it's in the top 100.
It's a great marketing idea that you guys had. And obviously it paid off.
Yeah, it really did.
So we're going to talk, we're going to move a little quick through some of this second album. Here it is. That's the stuff. This record did not really it definitely didn't have the hit that the first album had.
Right.
So tell me what it was like when this came out.
Well, we were kind of rushed into doing this when we actually wrote a lot of the songs, or most all the songs actually, while we were on tour because we were so busy. I mean, we were touring with Aerosmith and oh God, of course we had a Dio. There was a couple other bands that we toured with. So we just had to fly back in and do this album and then fly right back out. So we did it in 30 days, and that includes mixing and mastering. And so we didn't have the time to really sit down and write and think about the production ideas on this one. We were rushed into it. RCA just wanted to bang out another one real quick, and we're going, no, give us some more time. Give us a few months to get back home and do some writing. But no, they wanted to keep us out on the road, and they wanted to, they milked you for as much as they could back then, which was very typical. But I like a lot of the songs on this. I mean, there's some great songs, but also with the promotion on this and the third album, that's the time when Bob Summers died, and he was like in control of the whole New York offices, and he changed everything. Bob Buziak came in and took over as president, and they fired like 50% of their staff, and they got in all these young yuppies who didn't know the music business at all. And so record sales didn't only falter for us, but it was the Pointer Sisters, Kenny Rogers, the Eurythmics, and it was also Mr. Remember them?
Sure.
Yeah, their first album sold 4 million copies, and the second album barely touched gold. I didn't even think it did touch gold. So that kind of goes to show you RCA dropped the ball. And so everybody was very upset with the fact that they were taking so much time to train the new staff and everything and get things rolling. We were actually, as a band, telling people in New York offices how to do things, how to promote the album and everything. We're going, what's with you guys? Why are you dragging your feet? Why aren't we in the like Circus and Hit Parader and Cream and all these magazines and doing all these interviews and everything and photo shoots? You guys are supposed to be on top of that. And they weren't. They weren't at all. They just dragged their feet. So it wasn't us that hurt. It was all those other groups too.
Well, and it's like you said, that first record is 84, second record is 85. That's really fast to crank out these records. We're looking at a promo photo of the band. Here's an interesting one. Yeah,
that was on the second album. We took off one of the songs. Six String Fever is what it was. It's really sad because I really like that song. It's one that me and the singer co-wrote together, and they wanted us to do a cover version of something so that we could release that as the first single. And I'm going, well, what about Blondes and Black Cars? That's a great song, which that actually got more radio play in some countries than Turn Up the Radio did. Just like All I'm Gonna Take on the first album, I look at, when I get royalty statements, that's really like, that's more popular in Turn Up the Radio in places like Brazil and Argentina and in Japan. It's just weird how you see how different songs are more popular than the mainstream ones. Ones everybody thinks that you're a one-hit wonder, but actually no, we had other songs that were bigger hits in other countries. But this was the promo for We're an American Band. They wanted us to take off that Six String Fever and put on this song, a cover version, Grand Funk Railroad song. we're an American band. So that's what we did.
Yeah, well, it's a cool it's a cool photo. This photo is so if you go to iHeartRadio to listen to Autograph, that is the photo.
Oh, is that right? Oh,
Yeah, that's the photo they use. It's funny how, something like that becomes the photo that they use,
Yeah, they
Okay,
pick them out. I have no control over that. They can use whatever they want.
Hey, at least they're using it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the third and technically final album of this period of Autograph. This is the first one I heard. I'm a little younger, so
Okay.
this was the first time I was exposed to Autograph. And this record was getting some play and had a little video play, and was definitely a sort of pop metal record. And again, like you said, you guys were earlier you toured on the Theater of Pain tour with Motley Crue,
Yeah.
Van Halen, Heart. I mean, you guys were really being seen. You were a live band. But so tell me a little bit about this third record, Loud and Clear.
Well, the Loud and Clear record, we finally found an opportunity to work with Andy Johns actually producing us. We wanted him to do it on the first record. We wanted him to do it on the second record, but the timing wasn't matching up. Andy was so busy at that time. And of course, we were busy too. We were always touring. And so we couldn't find a time to match up. We finally did on this third album, where we found that we had, a couple months to go into the studio and really pound it out. We did everything at the record plant, all three albums actually. And so we were all comfortable being there. We were always in room A, the big room in the very back. And so working with him was just a dream. It was really cool. This is actually my favorite sounding album, this one here. I think that our writing matured. I think that on the debut album, it was fun, and we had these great songs, and we were all energetic and everything. But I think on the third album, we were more refined. And I look at the songwriting and the production of it, of course, and the arrangement, and I go, I think, anyway, to me, it's my favorite album.
Yeah, I think that this record, it did come out at a good time when this music was really, being played. This was stuff that people were really into at the time, and was fitting with what MTV, some of the rock videos were playing at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So first time that I see the band Autograph would be right here in this movie, which was called Like Father, Like Son.
Oh yeah.
This was the beginning of these cross identity movies. Dudley Moore plays Kirk Cameron's father, and Kirk Cameron's a big star at the time, Growing Pains.
Yeah.
Dudley Moore was Arthur, and
exactly. So they were both very big stars. Yeah. So
yeah,
it was cool to get to meet them, and when we recorded the video for She Never Looked That Good for Me, we went down because we had to fly out right after the video, and we had to go back out on tour with actually, I think it was Motley Crue at the time. But we recorded it live, and when we did it, I remember the guys, when you work with the staff, all the crew for a really major motion picture, that kind of a crew, as opposed to like a music video crew, the difference is night and day. The guys that do these major motion pictures, they have it together, and they are quick because they're under a budget, and they are just they're very apt to what they're doing, and so everything went really smoothly. But what they did was they said, okay, guys, let's do another rehearsal. We got to get the lighting and the sound levels right. And so we went through the song, and we were just goofing around. I was taking big swigs of water. I was spitting it on Kenny, and Kenny was throwing drumsticks at me. And so, we went through the whole song, and we got through it. We played it great. And they said, okay, that's a take. And we went, what? I said, what? I was goofing around, and they said, no, that's what we wanted you to do. They said, it's an old trick of the business when they say, look at this, let's just do a rehearsal. But they film it because then the actors or the performers, they're more relaxed because they think it's just a performance, and or it's just a rehearsal, not the actual performance. And so they did that, and it worked out great. When we look back at the footage, we went, yeah, we were really loose on stage, running around and stuff, and just being goofy, and so It's an old trick of the trade that works.
It worked, yeah. Where was that film? Because the scene is the big concert scene, and Kirk Cameron shows up, but he is his father's. He's his father now, and but it's a big concert. Where was that?
You there? You froze up a little bit, I think.
Hold on. Let's take a look here.
Okay, now I can.
Okay, you're back. I was asking you, where was that film? There was a big concert scene.
Oh, it was at Long Beach Arena.
Wow.
Yeah. And they invited all the people. The whole place was full. They just put out, a letter, that, hey, come and see Autograph live for free, and the place packed out, so.
Did you guys play some other songs too?
What's that?
Did you guys play a few other songs for the people?
Yeah, we did, like just rehearsing, goofing around, we did, because the people were there, and they were, changing the lightings, getting people in position and everything. They, the crew said, or the director said, you guys can go ahead and play a couple of songs if you want while we're doing this. And so we did. We entertained the crowd a little bit.
Yeah, and movie soundtracks ended up kind of being a good thing for Autograph. You guys were also in legendary horror movie Fright Night.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then
a couple songs for that. We did a couple songs for Youngblood, that hockey movie with Rob Lowe. For River Rat, that's the one with Tommy Lee Jones. Good movie. And what else? I know there's a couple other ones.
Secret Admirer, C. Thomas Howell.
What's that?
Secret Admirer with C. Thomas Howell.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Secret Admirer. I forgot all about that one. Yeah.
You guys had the whole Brat Pack. Rob Lowe, C. Thomas Howell.
Yeah, yeah, it was. That's what was popular. Those guys, they were huge at that time. Yes. All these, these 80s, the whole Brat Pack that were all around the same age they were huge at that time.
Yeah, and it's great exposure for your music, and a little checks too. But so here's where it gets interesting. That Loud and Clear comes out in 1987. Mm-hmm. First, I'll ask my question after. You tell me what caused Autograph to call it a day at that point.
Okay, well, we were actually doing demos after we got done, with the 3-album deal with RCA. We were talking to Epic about doing a 3-album deal with them, and so we were demoing out. We were just going in and paying for it out of our own pocket, demoing out all these songs, which those songs actually became Missing Pieces, which was released in 1997. That album, Missing Pieces, which is the 4th Autograph album. And so anyway, while we were doing this whole thing with for Epic to, because they wanted to hear some songs, so we were just throwing demos at them. And then they said, we're not sure, because now this whole Seattle grunge thing's happening, and radios are shifting everything over in that direction. And so all the stations were too. I mean, nobody was playing the 80s stuff anymore. And it was December of 1989, actually. We were in rehearsal, and we were, going over a couple more song ideas. And I said, you know what, guys, we're probably not going to get signed with Epic. We're not going to get signed. There's a new trend happening. It's the grunge scene, and it's just not going to happen. And so I said, so I'm bailing out. And Randy, the bass player, immediately said, yeah, I'm bailing out too. And we just said, yeah, let's just call it a day. Everybody was in kind of agreement. So there was nobody saying, no, let's stay together. Everybody kind of was on the same page. Everybody knew that, that for the 80s bands, it was over. And it just happened just like that, which was unfortunate, because, man, there was a lot of great bands that were put in the closet, and that was a real shame. But I look at it like, why go on if you know that nothing's going to happen? And nothing did for any of the bands. The last band was Guns N' Roses, and they weren't really an 80s band. They had kind of more of a 70s sound to them, but they snuck under the radar, and they got in there, and they were the last band of that era to actually make it. So.
Yeah, I think though that you guys, I feel like you might have been one ballad away from, fitting in. I know you guys were at that point, you were a little bit older than the bands that were starting to come out, your
yes.
Slaughters and
we were all, you're right about that, Jason. We were all probably 6 to 10 to 12 years older than everybody else. See, we were all the same age as Van Halen, and they came out in 78. Right. So we were all the same age as those guys. In fact, our singer and bass player, Steve and Randy, they were actually older than anybody in Van Halen's. And they used to play in a group called Wolfgang, and Van Halen used to open for them at Gazzari's and the Troubadour and all the places in LA, all the clubs in LA. So Van Halen used to open up for, two of the members in what became Autograph.
Yeah.
Which was odd. Then we ended up, 5 years later opening up for them.
For them, yeah. I mean, because I think that there was that trend where everyone wanted to sign this young Hollywood band, and maybe you guys kind of got lost in that shuffle when they're going for your warrants and your and Trickster and I know the market started oversaturating, but I really feel like maybe if Autograph, listen, if you didn't start when you did, you wouldn't have that opportunity. But you guys, I feel like somebody dropped the ball on marketing you guys or signing you guys right after Loud and Clear, so that again, one ballad could have came out, and all of a sudden, you guys would have been in that mix, because it did last a little bit longer. And you guys kind of got lost in that limbo, which happens when your deal expires.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate because we had the song More Than a Million Times and Changing Hands. They were great ballads. I still listen to this day. And I just go, man, those are big time hits. So you're right. It wasn't our writing or production or the arrangement of the songs. Or our accessibility. Mm-hmm. It was really the record company, and that's why you can put all this work in, and you can sign with a label that just puts you on the shelf, and they don't do much with you. Of course, that wasn't the case with us, but still, they could have put a lot more behind us. But you know what they were mainly pushing? RCA was. During the whole time we were with them, actually, their number one artist was Elvis Presley.
Wow.
And that's what they put their focus on, was finding these old, tapes of him and remastering everything and putting out these bundles, these box sets and everything, because they made more off of that than these other bands combined, so.
Yeah, they were. RCA was not known for their hard rock and metal bands.
No, they were not. No, I used to call it the Rock Cemetery of America. That's what they were became known as, because they just weren't a rock label. I mean, like I said before, it was they had Kenny Rogers, and they had the Eurythmics, and they had the Pointer Sisters, and Mr. of course, which was a similar band to ours. They're a little bit more poppy than Autograph, but that was basically the kind of artists that they had. They had a lot of country artists too, so that's basically what they were pushing. I think that it would have been much different, as far as popularity goes, popularity wise, if we would have signed to A&M or Geffen,
right,
or even Epic at that time. So
yeah, and this is just sort of how things happen. At that time, things change fast. But so let's talk a little bit about what the members went on to do before you started. You put the band back together. I know that happened a couple of times, but Steve Plunkett was the lead singer for Autograph, and he's a songwriter, I guess is what you would call him. And so tell me what he was doing after, and what he's been doing all these years.
Well, what he started to do was he started to go into mainly just he produced a few bands, but the main thing that he was doing was writing for TV and movies. And he wrote the theme song for that television series Seventh Heaven. Mm-hmm. And so that's always big money, because that goes into syndication and the reruns and everything that they play from that. That's always an income coming in for you, especially if you're the main writer and performer on a song. And that's just like, I think it was the Rembrandts that wrote the theme song for
Friends,
for the show Friends. And so that's like a huge income for the rest of their lives, the writers in that. So
what's funny though is that song is written by Allie Wills, who wrote she wrote all the Earth, Wind and Fire songs.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, and she wrote because I work with this guy Joe Esposito, who sang a song in the Karate Kid movie called "You're the Best Around," and she wrote that song also. And so it was one of these funny things. The Rembrandts got a lot of press, but Allie Willis got a lot of money.
Right.
You're right.
Well, they
have one of those
for the performance of the song, so they get the publishing from that. So that's good. But I didn't know. I thought the Rembrandts actually wrote it too, but it was her that did it. Okay, well, that makes sense.
She wrote the words. Maybe they wrote the music, but she was a lyricist. So.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So hopefully they got something. But so he was he was writing constantly. I mean, he had a lot of stuff coming out, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. He was writing all the stuff for different television and movie soundtracks, everything. So yeah, he was doing good. So that's basically, a lot of people don't know this, that you can be the best guitar player in the world. That doesn't mean you're going to make any money. You know,
Right.
the money comes from the writing. I mean, and getting your writing, getting your songs out there in as many, opportunities as possible. So
Yeah, absolutely. And so, okay, and so your keyboard player, Steve Isham, he tragically passed away
yeah,
from cancer in 2008.
yes,
What was he? He was still playing up until then, though, right?
yeah. He was playing with Vince Neil, actually, Vince
That's right.
Neil's band, and then he just stopped. He stopped playing. He knew he had cancer, and he kind of went into a downward spiral of, I hate to say it, but alcoholism and drug abuse. And he was in pretty dire straits by the time he finally passed away. And it was really sad, because I actually knew him from Seattle, because he was a Seattle guy as well as me. He played in a band called Bighorn, and I played in a group called Silverload in Seattle, and we were both, really popular Seattle bands. And so we knew each other from back in that time era, in the mid 70s, basically. And the weird thing is how I connected with him again, because I the last time I saw him was the 4th of July party that I had at my house up in Seattle at Green Lake, and that was the bicentennial, 4th of July. It was 1976. So that was the last time I saw him. And then when I moved down to LA after I graduated from the Guitar Institute, I'm looking for another place to live rather than living in Hollywood, and I found a place out in Glendale. Well, the person moving out of the apartment that I moved into was him, and we just looked at each other and we just went, "No way."
What a coincidence.
There's no way. In a city of 16 million people, I mean, what are the odds of that? I'm moving into the same. So I looked like it was destined to be that we actually played together someday. And so that's what we did. A couple of years after that, we were in Autograph.
Yeah, how wild. And then, okay, and then so your bass player, Randy Rand, and the drummer, Kenny Richards, they're going to come back in a form of Autograph with you later. But tell me what they were doing in the off years also.
Well, Randy was managing a leather shop where they made these, rock and roll dog collars and wristbands and all that kind of stuff, and guitar straps, stuff like that, but it was a booming business, and Randy did that forever. I myself, I owned a music school up in Seattle, so I was doing that. I did my solo album after, the Network 23 album. I did that after Autograph. I actually recorded that in 94 and 95. And then basically, and who else? Kenny he got into, unfortunately, he became addicted to heroin, and it put him in the wrong group of people, and there were some bad dealings that happened, and he actually ended up getting shot, and they killed him.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, because Autograph was reforming, and he was rehearsing with you guys.
Yeah.
You had a new lead singer, but so and I know it wasn't working out with him. Drug addiction was taking over, and so. But I don't think a lot of people knew what the details were, that because he was found dead, and I don't, maybe you can tell us exactly what happened.
Well, as far as the police report, they believe it was because of the fact that the people that he was associating with and everything, they think it was drug related, and they even think that there's a good possibility that the Mexican drug cartel was involved, and so, but that's the kind of people he was dealing with. He was associated with, I should say. And the first rehearsal that we had, it didn't go very well. I could tell that he hadn't played drums in a long time. And then the second rehearsal, he kept on stopping in the songs and everything. And he was going to the bathroom a lot and taping up his foot. So I think, he was shooting up drugs in his foot, because he'd come back out and he was way wired. I think he was doing meth, and I told him, Kenny, I said that was the one stipulation, is no drugs. Otherwise, I'm not going to have anything to do with this. And then the next rehearsal, I was flying down for these rehearsals from Seattle down to LA, and we were rehearsing at Mates down there. And the third rehearsal, he didn't even show up. didn't bother to show up. And so I just thought, I told the rest of the guys, I said, you know what, that's it. I'm bowing out. I'm not gonna deal with this. And so then Simon said, the new singer, he said, wait a minute. I've got this drummer. It's a great drummer. He has a really good attitude, a lot of experience and everything. And that's where Mark came into the picture, Mark Whelan. And great drummer, great guy, great attitude, great look and everything to him. So he fit in perfectly. And so I decided to give it a shot. And that's then took off. And I was with it for 5.5 years. But then after 5.5 years, I thought, you know what? I'm done doing this. I want to do something different musically, because I look at it like, I'm in my 60s now, and I just wanted to do something different. I've always wanted to do a concept album, like do my version of like Dark Side of the Moon. You know what I mean? Where it's a concept album and it's just, you play whatever you want to. You're not trying to get radio play. You're not trying to do any of that. I want to use operatic pieces. I want to, symphonic, or orchestral sounds and everything. And just, African beats and just whatever I'm influenced by. I listen to world music. So I listen to a very sporadic, just wide range of stuff. And, I've always thought I wanted to do an album like this. So that's what I'm doing now. Once I get my book completed, which it's actually completed, this is it right here.
Nice.
I'm just doing the proofreading right now. It's called Confessions of a Rock Guitarist. Okay, so that it kind of fits perfectly. But anyway, so that's my autobiography. And then next I start on my project Blue Neptune, and I already have the players in place. Even though like my solo album, I wrote all the stuff, and I basically in the studio I did all the instruments except for drums and vocals. And then Scott Gilman came in and he did a lot of the lyric writing and everything and the singing on it. He did just an amazing job, and still critics to this day love that album. It's just Steve Lynch Network 23, and you can listen to it on YouTube and all that. So, and you can watch me play a lot of solos on there. But that's what I want to do. Is I just want to do another album where I just kind of do everything, and I have input from other players later on in the game.
Steve, I wanted to ask you. You're a legendary guy amongst musicians. Were you ever approached by some of these, David Lee Roth types to be the guitar player?
Yes, I have before, but I'm not interested in doing that, because usually when you come into a situation from a band that's already established, then you're learning somebody else's solos. And I've put it out there that I'm not interested in doing that. Not interested in being like a SAG man at all. I just want to, I have so much music inside me that I don't want to spend time playing, somebody else's music and somebody else's solos. And because I'm a very stylized type person, I've got my own thing, and I don't sound quite like anybody else, and I haven't played cover songs since 1977. So I don't want to go back into that again, playing somebody else's material. Was
there anything that you passed on that would have been noteworthy, but you just didn't think it was for you?
It was right after Autograph split up, and it was with Alice Cooper, and it didn't work out anyway. But I just thought, what, this isn't my thing. And it's that when that song came out, something Poison, She's Poison or something like that. I can't remember the title exactly, but I learned a few of the songs and went in there and auditioned, and I didn't feel right about it. And then Alice Cooper and we hit it off great, but I had an opportunity at that time to go teach guitar clinics, and it was $3,600 a week with all expenses paid. And that was with Alice Cooper, it would have been $1,200 a week. Mm-hmm. And so I thought I could go make 3 times as much, and I'm playing my own stuff. I'm doing these guitar clinics. I'm promoting my books, because by that time I had my 2nd and 3rd book out, the Right Touch books 1, 2, and 3. And I thought, you know what? I really want to do this. It's a lot more money. It's 3 times as much money. And I get to automatically just go travel the world. And so I decided to do that.
Yeah. And that's definitely, it's more your style, though, obviously, to play your own, your own music. So, right. Okay. And so just a few more things. One, why did Steve Plunkett not want to do the reunion? What happened there?
He said that his voice just couldn't do that anymore, and I understood that, and I had a suspicion of that when we first approached him about doing a reunion, because right at the end of Autograph, his voice was starting to go back then, and he had said that a couple of years previous to us asking him, he said that he had gotten up on stage and sang a couple of songs, and his voice just couldn't do it. Even though he did his warm-ups and everything, they wanted to play a couple Autograph songs, so he got up with some band, and he said his voice didn't cut it. So he said he just retired from it, which is understandable. I think that's with older musicians, that's usually the first one to go is the singer's voice, of course, because that's a real physical thing. I mean, my hands, I've had trouble with my hands and everything, but I can still play. But new stuff. But
I think a lot of guys,
things are always limited. You always get in there and get the best in there while you can.
I think a lot of guys think, I won't be singing these songs in 30, 40 years,
Right.
And so when you're a kid singing high and all these things, and then to try to revisit it, not always the easiest thing. And so, okay, so now the last thing about your involvement is, so there's an Autograph continuing with just the bass player. It seems a little crazy to me, but maybe, how do you feel?
Oh no! If they wanted to keep on doing it, I wish them all the best, and I think it's great that they're continuing on. And they got Jimmy Bell to replace me, who's an amazing guitar player, and so I wish them all the best. It just wasn't my thing anymore. I just always thought that, I don't want to go down, ending my career just playing Autograph songs. I want to go on and do my own thing and do another solo album where it's just my imagination untethered.
Yeah, and so you're happy that the Autograph music is going, and so you have no animosity towards them continuing.
Oh no, not at all. When I quit, I said it was just my own personal choice, and I wish them all the best and everything. And no, there's no animosity whatsoever.
And we should point out that touring in a band like Autograph these days, it's not even touring. You take what fly dates you can get. It's not the most glamorous thing. It's not going to make you rich.
Right.
And so you need to be happy.
That was the other thing is that, we'd put all this effort in, and by the end of the day, after our expenses and everything, we'd be bringing home, realistically, on a good weekend, we'd be bringing home about $800 each, and that's after all the expenses and everything. I made a little bit more because I was the tour manager. I was the general manager. I did all the accounting. I did all the taxes. I did all the
stuff nobody wants to do.
The shows and everything. And I was doing everything. And so, except for merchandising, that's the only thing I wasn't doing. But everything else I was doing. I was doing all the taxes and everything. And I was getting burned out, because, the most relaxing part actually for me was getting up on stage and playing. That was the least stressful of the whole thing. All the other things I had to worry about getting paid and everything, and being on time to sound check and performance time and making sure everybody got fed and that the merch booth was set up and all that. And so I was just like, I was getting burned out on it. And I did that for, 5.5, almost 6 years. And that's when I just said, you know what, I need to do something else.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think anyone would. So, Steve, let's talk. You're living in Florida now, is that right?
Yeah.
And so, tell us a little bit about. You mentioned this book coming up, but for people who are watching and who might want to look into your music a little bit more, because it is a great body of work, and your playing is something that people would still be excited by. So, tell us what to look for. What can people check out?
People can check out. If they go on to Steve Lynch and they type in Network 23, they can hear all these different songs that I recorded on that album. Plus, you can view a bunch of solos that I did when I was putting together lynchlicks.com. In fact, there's a channel called lynchlicks.com YouTube, and you can go to that and you can check out all these different solos I put on that. But those solos are all over YouTube anyway. It just shows you how I'm actually playing them. You can watch me do old autograph solos, newer autograph solos, and all the stuff off of Network 23. And so there's just a ton of different guitar material on there. And I plan on doing that too. I'll add more to the channel as I record with this new project, you know, the Blue Neptune thing. And so, you know, but first it's finishing the book. And one thing I've realized is get one thing done at a time, put all your focus and attention just on that. And then finish that so you know that your best work went into that one thing. And then you move on to your next thing so you can put all your energy and focus into that.
Yeah, I need to take that advice, Steve. I'm usually doing a little of this, a little of that, a little of this, and then you have 10 unfinished projects. But
that's exactly what happened to me. And over the last couple of years, I thought, you know what, I just got to focus on one thing at a time. And so that's what I decided to do. I thought, I'm going to just write the book right now. I'm not going to be writing for the Blue Neptune. I already have a lot of stuff written for the next solo album anyway. But I thought what I'm going to mainly do is just concentrate on the book and get that done. Right now, like I said before, I'm just proofreading it right now, and then it'll be done. It goes off to the publisher and the printer.
Yeah, that sounds great, and we're looking forward to that. And Steve, I appreciate you talking today. A lot of amazing stories. You know, you've had some career.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on, Jason. And once you read the book, you'll see that there's a lot more too.
Well, you'll come back.
You can sit here for a couple of days, and I could tell you.
Oh, believe me, there was so many things that I was reading. You know, I was reading up on you, and I'm going, this is insane. And you know, but so you'll come back when the book is out, and we'll talk about it some more.
You know, I'd love to do that. Absolutely.
Great. Thanks, Steve. We'll talk soon.
Okay, you got it. Thank you, Jason.